Well, a very good evening and thank you for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. The Lal Street marks the worst fall in over 2 months as rate hikes from global central banks rattle sentiment after a 50 basis point rate hike by US Federal Reserve, Bank of England and European Central Bank also hike rates. Union government says cough syrups manufactured by India's Maiden Pharma, which allegedly led to the death of 66 children in Gambia, was of standard quality. Union Minister Bhagwat Kuba tells Parliament no contaminants were found in control samples of 4 cough syrups. Fugitive diamond merchant Nirav Modi's extradition to India is a step closer. The PNB scam accused loses the battle to appeal against his extradition before the UK Supreme Court in the 13,000 crore fraud case. The Home Ministry steps in to take stock of overcrowding and chaos at Terminal 3 of Delhi Airport. Sources say the CISF will deploy additional manpower at Delhi Airport. The centre has directed implementation of a 12-point action plan at Mumbai, Bengaluru and Hyderabad airports. Air India pilot union's right to the airline highlight manpower crunch, leave denials, pay discrimination against Indian pilots, among other issues. The union alleges that pilots are being punished with pay cuts on the months that they fall sick, away leave or undergo training. Poonawalla FinCorp approves the sale of its housing finance subsidiary to private equity players TPG for 3,900 crore rupees. Adar Poonawalla tells CNBC-TV18 that the company may use the cash to buy fintech and could also consider a share buyback. The group of ministers formed to decide on imposing GST on online gaming and gambling fails to arrive at a consensus, leaves the matter to the GST Council to take the final decision. The Council is scheduled to meet this Saturday. The Supreme Court says a public servant can be convicted of corruption based on circumstantial evidence in the absence of direct, oral or documentary proof. Adds that the absence of evidence by a complainant due to turning hostile or death is not enough to acquit. China begins to push for large-scale vaccination as the retreat from zero-COVID policy turns messy. A study shows China's death toll due to COVID could cross 1 million. Reports say doctors and nurses told to keep working even when infected as virus rips through the population. Elon Musk sells Tesla shares for another $3.6 billion even as the stock drops to 2-year lows. This latest sale puts his total share sale value at close to $40 billion this year. The move raises concerns that Musk is diverting his money and focus from Tesla to Twitter. Well, the big trigger for the day, central banks continue to tighten monetary policy as inflationary concerns loom large over the global economy. Now, US Federal Reserve hiked interest rates by as much as 50 basis points as expected. Now, the policy rate is now at a range of 4.25 to 4.5%, the highest in 15 years. The European Central Bank and Bank of England also hiked their policy rates by 50 basis points each to 2.5%. Bank of England raised interest rates by 50 basis points as well. The rate hike and commentary from the US Fed rattled markets across the world, and India was no exception. The Lal Street marked its biggest single-day fall in 2 months. Sensex lost nearly 900 points and the Nifty lost about 250. All sectoral indices ended in the red, all thanks to the last hour sell-off. 44 out of 50 Nifty stocks ended with losses. Prashant Nair is joining us now with a quick wrap of the day's market action. Prashant.
Pronounced selling pressure today and the market ending at the low point on the Nifty and the Bank Nifty. Generally, the impulse for the last so many weeks has been the dip gets bought sooner rather than later in the first couple hours of trade. But today, through the course of the day, the market kept going lower. Banks saw the similar kind of structure. Banks, by the way, have been the stronger part of the market. No such luck today. PSU banks, 10 days in a row, they've gone up, but today they saw losses. Other large sectors, IT, metals and real estate were some of the others. On the large cap, you had cuts coming through in tech names like Tech Mahindra and Infosys, bank names, the HDFC twins, Titan was down, Eicher was one of the top losers as well. Broader markets, The advance decline, which was in favor of advances, initially flipped completely 2:1 in favor of declines by close. IRCTC, the PSU names were down. Bank of Baroda, Bank of India, Ambuja Cements lost quite a bit. Poonawalla FinCorp, there's a deal there. We spoke with the management. It pulled back. J&K Bank, Campus, G Shipping. G Shipping has been a huge outperformer and it sort of gave up some of those gains. There were gainers in the PSU bank space as well, but at the bottom rung of the PSU bank ladder, UCO Bank, Indian Overseas Bank were strongly up. Piramal Enterprises was up. That's been an underperformer. Fact, we had the management with us earlier today. GIC RE, huge underperformer since listing. That was up. GSFC and a bunch of others as well. As I said, the markets have ended at the low point of the day, both the Nifty and the Bank Nifty. And I think everyone will look to the US session because last night's session in equities and yields on the dollar did not reflect how hawkish the Fed was. Will we see a more pronounced reaction out of the US today? Or, as we have seen, these moves don't last. I think that will set the course for us near term when we return.
Well, here's a look at the Parliament action now. The Union government has told the Parliament that the controlled samples of 4 cough syrups that allegedly led to the death of 66 children in Gambia were found to be of standard quality. Bhagwat Khuba, Union Minister for State and Chemical and Fertilizers, in a written reply in Rajya Sabha said, as per the report of the government analyst, the samples have been declared to be of standard quality. The said samples were also found negative for both diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol. On the 5th of October, the World Health Organization had issued a medical product alert for 4 contaminated cough syrups that could have caused acute kidney injuries and deaths among children in Gambia. The WHO investigators had found unacceptable levels of diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol in the samples of the medicines, which can be toxic. The Haryana drug regulator had halted production at Maiden Pharma factory after the WHO alert. The order from the regulator said that Maiden Pharma has been manufacturing and testing drugs without adhering and in contravention of the various goods and manufacturing practices requirements. The regulator went on to say that the firm has not maintained and not produced complete records of manufacturing and testing as per rules. In other developments, fugitive businessman Nirav Modi, who faces multiple charges in India for alleged involvement in the Punjab National Bank scam, has lost the bid to appeal against his extradition in UK's Supreme Court. Sanjay Suri now joins us all the way from London. Sanjay, tell us another setback for Nirav Modi. Is this a step closer to bringing him back home to India?
Well, on the extradition matter, we have broken new ground here. The Indian government has certainly broken new ground here. The Indian government has never had the kind of success before that it had with Vijay Mallya and then again with Nirav Modi. These are fugitives sought in India for very, very big financial frauds, and the Indian government has succeeded. And the human rights argument was one of the main arguments that was presented by both Vijay Mallya earlier and Nirav Modi now in court, saying that extradition would be a violation of their human rights, that they would not get a right to fair trial, that the detention conditions themselves would be inhuman. All these arguments were made, but on these occasions, the court upheld the Indian government's case. It accepted the Indian government's assurances that dedicated facilities have been set up, a Barrack 12, particularly in Arthur Road Jail in Mumbai, where the detention conditions would be acceptable, more than acceptable. They would be transparent, available for views and inspection. So the human rights argument was put to one side. But now it is not a matter only for the courts, because the government itself has provided another legal avenue for someone like Vijay Mallya and now Nirav Modi to work. And that is the path they're going down now and staying on for that reason.
Right, Sanjay, thanks a lot for that update from London. Now, the government is planning to sell up to 5% stake in Indian Railway Catering and Tourism Corporation. The floor price has been fixed at 680 rupees per share. This is at an over 7% discount to yesterday's closing price. Poonawalla FinCorp approved the sale of its housing finance subsidiary to private equity player TPG for 3,900 crore rupees. In a conversation with CNBC-TV18, Adar Poonawalla, the chairman of Poonawalla FinCorp, said that the company may use the cash to buy a fintech company and could also consider a share buyback.
We're targeting annualized, growing at between 30 to 40% because we don't want to grow any faster than that in FinCorp because, then you're not really taking care of all the things that you need to vet, the loans and the kind of assets that you're building. Look, there was no rush really to sell it. In fact, we weren't putting Poonawalla Housing on the market. It was just that this offer came about and we thought that, look, this is a great way to encash and bring in some more cash at the FinCorp level, which enhances the net worth, and we'll see what to do with that cash. It could be used, for making some small fintech acquisitions. It could be used to returning, some money to the shareholders with the company buyback.
The group of ministers formed to decide on imposing GST on online gambling as well as gambling fails to arrive at a consensus, leaving the matter to the GST Council to take the final decision. The council is scheduled to meet this Saturday. Timsy Jaipuria now joins us with more details. Timsy, tell us, what are you picking up?
Well, that's right. The much-awaited GOM report on online gaming casinos and race courses has finally been submitted by the convener, Conrad Sangma. And what sources are indicating that the report has failed to arrive at a consensus. The GOM has failed to agree if 28% GST on gaming or gambling activities should be levied on the full face value of bets placed or on GGR. GOM leaves it open for the GST Council to take a final call on taxing online gaming casinos and race courses. Also, very clearly, GOM has proposed that there could be a possibility where a special mechanism to carve out an escrow account for race courses and online gaming can be examined. GOM has proposed that if this proposal is taken forward, then the escrow account can contain a pooled prize money for payouts to winners. And it has further proposed that money collected by race courses and online gaming sites towards commission and platform fee can be segregated via this escrow account setup. And let's see, once the segregated monies at race courses and online gaming sites have been done, it will also help in easy tax administration. But yes, as of now, it has been left open because none of the member states could actually arrive at consensus on any points, be it the 28% taxation or the valuation mechanism for any particular activity, be it online gaming, for casinos or for race courses. So all states have divergent views. Not even a single state or two states have come on common ground. Let's see what happens finally when the GST Council meets and takes up this report.
Right, Timsy, thanks a lot for that update. Now, the Home Ministry took stock of overcrowding and chaos at Terminal 3 of Delhi Airport. Sources say the CISF will be deploying additional manpower at Delhi Airport. The centre, meanwhile, has directed implementation of a 12-point action plan at Mumbai, Bengaluru and Hyderabad airports. Well, sticking to the aviation space, 2 Air India pilot unions have written to the airline red flagging shortage of pilots and other key challenges that they are facing. This includes long working hours, which in turn raises questions of passenger safety, pay cuts and deteriorating work-life balance. Madiha Mujawar now joins us with more. Madiha, tell us what are the concerns highlighted by the pilots in their letter?
The letter you mentioned is written by 2 pilot unions of Air India, the Indian Pilots Guild and Indian Commercial Pilots Association. The pilots have alleged inconsideration to their grievances by the airline management, despite they supporting airlines' expansion plans. The letter alleges that pilots have been made to fly for over 90 hours per month on all fleets, especially on Boeing 777s. This, they claim, exceeds the industry norm of 70 hours of flying per month, as any more flying hours after this are counted as overtime. The letter also talks about crew shortage, saying that planned roster cannot be maintained due to shortage of pilots and non-availability of standby pilots. They allege that in order to manage the planned roster, regulatory flight duty time limit of pilots may also have been undermined. The pilots have also alleged that Air India management has been denying and cancelling leaves to pilots. The letter claims that they are not paid on the months that they fall sick, avail leave, or are undergoing training to fly a different aircraft. The pilots also allege that Air India is hiring expat pilots at a salary that is 80% higher than the current long-serving domestic pilots. This even as their salaries haven't been restored to the pre-COVID pay structure. The pilots have noted they can no longer sacrifice the quality of their life, work-life balance, and their long-term health.
Right, Madhya, thanks a lot for that. Now, Petroleum Minister Hardeep Puri told the Parliament today that 6 states, all non-BJP ruled, have not reduced VAT on petroleum products, leading to higher petrol and diesel prices in those states. Puri also said that currently the petrol prices in India, one of the lowest, added that oil PSUs suffered losses of 27,000 crore rupees due to high crude prices internationally.
The central government, in order to maintain the price at the bunk at a reasonable level, reduced the excise duty on 2 occasions in November 2021 and May of 2022. Increase of petrol only at 2%, while internationally it went up by a very large percent, was because the OMCs, as good corporate citizens, took a loss. These 3 companies, IOCL, BPCL and HPCL, now in the H1 of the further year, they have booked a combined loss of 27,276 crore.
Now, the food regulator has asked FMCG companies to back up their claims on their food packaging. The regulator has also made it compulsory for food companies to highlight disclaimers for fancy adjectives prominently in the front of the pack. Shilpa Ranipeta joins us now with more details. Shilpa, tell us, what does this mean for food companies as well as consumers?
Well, consumers will now have to start paying closer attention to the claims that are made on food products and their labels. Now, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, or the FSSAI, has issued a set of amendments to the advertising and claims on food products. Now, this is called the Food Safety and Standards Advertising and Claims Second Amendment Regulations of 2022. And these new regulations mandate companies to make clearer disclosures on food packets, and they hold them responsible for the advertisements and the claims that they make on labels. Now, it has issued a set of conditions for claims like fat-free, low sugar, protein high, etc., source of fiber, among others. Now, for example, a food can be called low fat only if it contains 3 grams or less of fat per 100 grams of solid foods, and fat-free only if that's less than 0.5 grams per 100 grams. Similarly, it's only low sugar if it's 5 grams or less of per sugar per 100 grams of solid. Now, similar conditions are also given for a whole host of other nutrients as well, like protein, for example. There's also for cholesterols, vitamins, dietary fiber, gluten, etc. Now, for claims like no added salt, now that can be made only if the food item and its ingredients have no sodium salts or its substitutes, or similarly for no additives claim as well, there are similar regulations. Now, the regulations also look at the limit of adjectives like natural, fresh, pure, etc. that are part of trademarks and brand names. For example, in the case of Dabur homemade ginger garlic paste, right? Now, this claim that homemade is only a trade pack and that does not represent its true nature. Now, that will have to be prominently displayed on the front of the pack and in a specified font size. Now, if the food item claims to reduce the health risk of a disease or reduce disease, now companies for that will have to specify how much of that food has to be consumed per day for that claim to hold true. Now, there are also other disclosures like with respect to volumes of nutrients and micronutrients that are present in food items. Now, these regulations came into effect on the 13th of December and may require food companies to now have to rework their packaging completely to comply with these new regulations, and they have 30 days to do this and seek clarifications.
Well, with that, it's time now to slip into a very short break. But up next, thousands of Indians employed in the US stare at a risk of being deported after losing their jobs in the tech layoff wave. We tell you why on the other side. Welcome back. Now, a quick look at some of the other headlines that we're tracking. The Supreme Court has said that a public servant can be convicted of corruption based on circumstantial evidence in the absence of direct oral or documentary proof. It adds that the absence of evidence by a complainant due to turning hostile or deaf is not enough to acquit. At least 40 people have lost their lives after allegedly consuming spurious alcohol in Bihar's Saran district. Chief Minister Ashmit Kumar expressed his grief over the deaths, reiterated the state's liquor ban, and asked people to refrain from drinking alcohol. BJP workers staged a protest against the Bihar government over its failure to impose a ban on liquor in the state.
जहरीली शराब से तो शुरू से लोग मरते हैं और देश भर में मरते हैं।
यहाँ जितना जहरीली जब शराब बंदी नहीं थी तब भी जहरीली शराब से यहाँ भी मरते थे, लेकिन अन्य एक मिनट जान लीजिए अन्य राज्यों में भी बहुत भारी संख्या में लोग जहरीली शराब से मरते थे। लोगों को सचेत रहना चाहिए। यहाँ तो शराब बंदी है तो कुछ गड़बड़ तो बेचेगा ही, तो लोगों की मौत हो जाती है। तो इसको याद रखना चाहिए कि शराब नहीं पीना है, शराब बड़ी बुरी चीज है, लेकिन फिर भी कोई पी लेता है।
China begins to push for large-scale vaccination as the retreat from zero-COVID policy turns messy. A study shows that China's death toll due to COVID could cross 1 million. Reports say doctors and nurses told to keep working even when infected as virus rips through the population. Elon Musk sells Tesla shares for another $3.6 billion even as the stock drops to a 2-year low. This latest sale puts his total share sale value at close to $40 billion this year. The move raises concerns that Musk is diverting his money and focus from Tesla to Twitter. Thousands of Indians are at the risk of being deported from the US. That's because they are among the 2 lakh tech workers who have lost their jobs this year. CNBC-TV18's Kiran Khatri finds out more about how many of them are coping with the situation.
60 calendar days. That's the window that laid-off H-1B visa holders in the US have to find a new employer to sponsor their visa. Failure will mean they have to leave America. A large number of these are Indians whose green card applications are pending with US authorities.
We're looking at about 70 to 80K. Within that 70 to 80K, if you look at the average H-1B percentage within these companies, in tech companies, they're typically 5 to 15%. And that comes out to somewhere around 4 to 12K that are in the US on an H-1B affected by these layoffs. And because of the green card backlogs, most of those 4 to 12K are probably Indians on an H-1B employed in the US.
Some of these H-1B holders who shared their stories with CNBC-TV18 said the job hunt has been challenging, and not just because of the narrow window.
A lot of companies do not want to even interview candidates who are on H-1B. And then even those candidates, even those companies that want to interview, if you know it takes a while for the interview process to be completed, as some companies take like 2 weeks to just like have interview with the first round and then they talk about other rounds. So this process by itself can take 4 to 6 weeks.
However, a US embassy spokesperson told CNBC-TV18, and I quote, "We continue to see high interest from US companies in employing Indian workers through the H-1B program." End of quote. Some companies which have had to lay off employees have been trying to help. A 27-year-old Indian who was laid off by real estate tech company Compass told CNBC-TV18 on the condition of anonymity, and I quote, "My company offered me a 2-month severance package. Instead of giving me a lump sum amount, they said they will keep me on the payroll for 2 months even though I won't be an employee anymore. So my 60-day period began after that period ended." End of quote. Immigration lawyers say one option these visa holders can study is changing their H-1B visa to a visitor visa, which will give them 6 months to find a job and reapply for an H-1B visa. But the rules governing such changes are complex. A few also say it's time America reviewed these visa rules. They added that such rigid rules may prove detrimental to the US economy.
What America doesn't realize is that these people are sick of unwelcoming US immigration policies that are so old and need to be changed. It's going to impact American economics because the brain drain that America attracted the best and the brightest from all over the world and stayed at the forefront of innovation in the world, that's no longer going to apply anymore when people don't want to come here.
But no one is holding their breath, because petitions in the past to increase the window to 180 days have not had much success. Many H-1B visa holders are now bracing for the eventuality of returning to India. But again, there is no guarantee they will find a job. According to the Naukri Job Speak Index report, IT sector hiring was down by 18% year-on-year in October. Even India's startup ecosystem may not be a viable option. From Byju's to Unacademy to Oyo, Indian tech startups have also been handing out pink slips. In Mumbai with Kiran Khatri, Arundhati Ramanan.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. News and updates continue right here on CNBC TV18.
powered by Century Ply. आग से बचा